On the surface, Timothy Floyd Smith appeared to live a life many admired. At 59 years old, he was respected in his professional world, serving as the executive director of a senior living community in Ocala, Florida. Friends described him as warm, generous, and deeply committed to his work. He was married to Herbert Swilley, his longtime partner, and together they presented the image of a stable, loving couple. But behind closed doors, their relationship and their lifestyle was far more complicated than anyone realized. What began as an unconventional arrangement would eventually unravel into one of Florida's most bizarre homicide cases, later dubbed by the media as the Sex House Murder. In addition to their main residence in Ocala, Timothy and Herbert maintained a second apartment in nearby Citrus County. Investigators later revealed that this apartment served as a private space for consensual sexual encounters with other men. Everything was meant to remain discreet. Guests came and went quietly, and the apartment functioned almost like a hidden extension of their marriage. Although the lifestyle was legal, tensions between the couple were growing. Financial disputes, jealousy, and frequent arguments had begun to strain the relationship. Friends later told authorities that Timothy seemed restless in the months before his death, hinting that he might have been planning major changes, perhaps even leaving the marriage altogether. The situation took a tragic turn on March 25, 2023, when Herbert Swilley called law enforcement to request a welfare check. He explained that Timothy had not answered calls and had failed to show up for work, behavior completely out of character for the normally dependable man.
Because my other half haven't seen since late Thursday night when we went to bed. He didn't show up for work yesterday. They've called, they've texted. Everybody's called and texted. We don't actually live here. This is his secondary apartment that he uses for his massage studio and other stuff. But his Jeep's been here, the girl's now saying, for almost 2 to 3 days. It hasn't moved, and we can't get a hold of him. We've called, y'all did a wellness check yesterday. They couldn't go in because I don't have a key, so they told me to get a hold of the landlord. He actually has a key. Okay. But they told us not to go in, that since I'm not legally on the lease or anything.
Okay.
So.
What's his name?
Timothy Floyd Smith.
Officers were directed not to the couple's main home, but to the Citrus County apartment. What they found there immediately raised alarms. Timothy Smith was discovered dead inside the apartment, wearing only a t-shirt and shoes. His body showed clear signs of violence. There were ligature marks around his neck, severe blunt force trauma to his face, and injuries to his genital area. The medical examiner would later confirm that Timothy's cervical spine had been fractured, a devastating injury that indicated extreme force. The brutality of the attack stood in stark contrast to the quiet, staged appearance of the scene. Investigators quickly noticed that something did not add up.
Yeah. You okay? He's in there, he's not okay?
Yeah.
Sorry. Well, they would have been here last night if I hadn't given out the wrong phone number. I didn't give them Jack's phone number for the landlord because I have it in as Jack in Ocala with an L. So I thought it was Jack for landlord, and it's Jack of AA that we saw at our retreat. And I gave him that number, and he called me this morning and said, Herbie, I'm not Jack's landlord, so why are you calling me? And I'm like, oh my God, I said. So I've been scrolling through. It took me 45 minutes to find his number, and I had to find it via text.
As detectives examined Herbert Swilley's statements, inconsistencies began to emerge. His timeline did not align with surveillance footage and phone records. Data showed movements he initially denied. More disturbing was the discovery that Timothy had likely been killed at the couple's primary residence in Ocala, not at the Citrus County apartment where his body was found. Bloodstain analysis and forensic evidence suggested the crime scene had been relocated. Investigators concluded that Timothy's body had been moved after his death. Carpet from the Ocala home had been removed and discarded. Surveillance footage had been deleted. Cleaning products had been heavily used. Prosecutors later argued that these actions were part of an intentional effort to mislead authorities by staging the Citrus County apartment as the site of the murder. Rather than concealing the crime, the attempt to control the narrative only deepened suspicion. As the investigation expanded, detectives uncovered a possible motive rooted in fear and financial control. Timothy reportedly carried significant life insurance policies, with Herbert named as a beneficiary. Financial records showed ongoing disputes, and witness statements suggested Timothy was considering leaving the relationship. Prosecutors theorized that Herbert faced the possibility of losing not only his partner, but also financial stability and control over their shared life. When the existence of the secondary apartment became public, media coverage intensified. Headlines quickly labeled the case the sex house homicide, focusing on the most sensational aspect of the story.
They live over off Buffington. They rent this place as a massage party playroom. Him and his husband over here. Because they don't want their daughters seeing their activities. Much of sex swings and bloggers.
While investigators stressed that the encounters were consensual and not criminal, the setting complicated the case. Detectives were forced to identify past visitors, rule out unknown suspects, and carefully reconstruct who had access to the apartment. Despite the distractions, the evidence consistently pointed in one direction. In November 2023, Herbert Swilley was arrested and charged with first-degree premeditated murder, tampering with physical evidence, and providing false statements to law enforcement. Prosecutors alleged that Herbert Swilley had drugged Timothy, strangled him, inflicted additional blunt force injuries, and then transported his body to the Citrus County apartment to make the murder appear accidental. Swilley pleaded not guilty, maintaining his innocence as the case progressed to trial. During the proceedings, jurors were offered a rare glimpse into the couple's private life. Text messages, financial records, and testimony from friends revealed a relationship under intense strain. Medical experts explained the effects of the drugs found in Timothy's system, showing how completely incapacitated he would have been. Forensic analysts meticulously walked the jury through blood-stain patterns and crime scene inconsistencies, demonstrating why the murder could not have taken place where the body was discovered. The defense argued alternative possibilities, including the involvement of an unknown visitor or a consensual encounter gone wrong. Prosecutors methodically dismantled these claims, highlighting the absence of any supporting evidence and presenting overwhelming proof that the scene had been staged. Step by step, they reconstructed Timothy's final hours, painting a picture of a murder that was deliberate, calculated, and deeply personal. In 2025, the jury delivered its verdict. Herbert Swilley was found guilty of first-degree murder and sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole.
In this case, you're going to be adjudicated guilty of murder in the first degree and sentenced to life imprisonment.
For Timothy's family, the conviction offered some closure, though it could never erase the violence and betrayal that had shattered their lives. The Florida sex house case remains unsettling, not just because of its scandalous details, but because of how ordinary it first seemed. A respected professional, a long-term relationship, a quiet life, all masking a web of secrets, manipulation, and hidden danger. It stands as a chilling reminder that appearances can deceive, and sometimes the most lethal threats come from the people closest to us, leaving echoes of fear and suspicion that linger long after justice has been served.